Hey guys, so I'm back with another video, and today we are going to talk about async await in JavaScript. Right now, before I go ahead and start explaining what is async await in JavaScript, I believe we need to know some of the very important aspect of JavaScript. Things like what is synchronous JavaScript, what is asynchronous JavaScript, what is the problem with synchronous JavaScript, why do we need asynchronous JavaScript, what are the challenges with asynchronous JavaScript, right? Why do we need callbacks? What are promises? Why do we need promises, right? So if you're looking for answer of such questions, I have already created a video which talks about all of these important things. Now, I would highly recommend you guys to go watch that video first and then continue with this one, right? Because if you're willing to learn async await, you have to know about asynchronous JavaScript. You have to know about callbacks, promises, all those important things, right? I will provide the link in the description of the same video that I just talked about. Now let's get started with this one, right? So in last video we have already discussed how to deal with asynchronous operation, how to create the promises, how to consume the promises, right? So probably we are going to continue with the similar example, and then probably we will see how async await comes into the picture, right? So if you remember, I was discussing a kind of problem in which I was willing to show orders for that particular user, and once the order have been fetched from the some API or from some API, then I want to act upon it. I want to show some kind of alert that saying that my orders have been fetched successfully, and to solve that problem, we made use of promises, right? So we are going to see that problem again, right? So if you remember, we were having this kind of function, right? Get user order, in which instead of making API call, I was just mimicking the same nature with the help of set timeout. And now what I have changed, instead of printing some console log, or instead of printing some hard-coded messages, I am just uh, I'm just making a list of orders, and that the list I am resolving, right? Now I can have one more function. Let's see, show message, and this function job is to just showcase the message, right? I will also add some timeout bit. Okay. Now think about, I have this function, uh, process order, right? Now what I can do, I can say show message fetching orders, and then I will start calling my async operation. And once it is done, I can consume my promise with the help of then. And then I can again show the message orders fetched. And let's try to store our order somewhere. What I can do, I can just say orders is equal to data. So far so good, right? And I can also print my orders, something like my orders are, right? And here I can show my orders, and I can call this function. So so far so good, right? All these things we have already learned in the last video, right? What is that? How to how to make use of async operation, how to perform anything once your async operation completes, right? This is what we have discussed in our last video, right? So get user order is a function that returns promise. I am consuming this promise, and I am performing some operation once my async operation is completed. Let's see if it is working fine or not. Okay, so it's, let me refresh it. It's fetching order, waiting for some time, like 3 seconds, and then orders fetch. My orders are this. Okay, no, so far so good. There's nothing wrong. This is how things we do the things in with the help of promises, right? Now think about a function. So what I'm trying to say, I am going to write this process order function in some other way. Probably I will try to write this function in better way. Okay. What is that better way? I'm not sure whether it would be possible or not, but to me, this way looks more better. And to you guys, this way, this this kind of way would look more better to you, right? So what if I can write this function in such a way? I will just say let orders, and I will just call this get user order. And of course, I will keep calling this show message fetching order. And then I will say show message orders fetched. So think about if we can write our process order function in this way, and if we are willing to write this way, how do we see this function? It will call this fetching order function or show message function. It will log this fetching order, and then what I'm saying let orders is equal to get user order. What I'm essentially saying, please execute this get user order function. I know it is a promise, and when this promise is getting resolved, get the value and store into this orders variable. And it should wait here at line number 26, right? Because until and unless my orders are not getting fetched, I don't want to do anything. That is my requirement. Probably I want to do the payment processing once my orders are loaded, or maybe I want to hit some API for applying the coupons, something like that. So my requirement in such a way, until unless my orders are not getting executed, orders are not getting fetched, I don't want to do anything else, right? And I don't want to use promises as well. That code is like not looking good to me. I need to use then, and then I'm again storing this data variable in here, right? And then I'm doing something, right? So do we have any way in JavaScript in which I can write my process order function in this way? What is this way? This way looks more synchronous to me. Like it's like one by one, I am executing the things, right? I'm showing the message fetching order, and with this line, I'm saying that get user order, resolve the promise, and once until unless it is not resolved, don't go anywhere else, right? And once it is resolved, store the thing into this orders and then proceed this with this function, right? I know with this it is not possible. Why? The reason we have already discussed in the last video, right? Reason because get user order is a promise, returning a promise. As soon as JavaScript seeing things like promises, set timeout, fetch, any asynchronous stuff, it will keep executing the next line of code, right? It won't wait for it. That's how JavaScript works. It doesn't wait for your set timeout thing or any file output operation. Doesn't wait for it, right? But again, the question is same. Do we have any way in which I can write function in this manner? Because this look more readable, right? This look more readable, right? So that I can execute the things line by line instead of using this consuming the promise and then hitting my things inside the callbacks, right? Yes, there is certainly a way. What is that way? If I can use await in front of this function, which is returning a promise, what JavaScript does, as soon as JavaScript sees this await statement, right, it will wait for this function, which will return a promise. It will wait for this function, which will return a promise till the promise is getting resolved. And once the promise is resolved, from the value which for which it is getting resolved, it will store that value as well into this order variable, right? So, so basically, await get user order, what it will do, it will execute the promise. It will halt the execution of this function. It will halt the execution of this function until unless promise is not getting resolved. Your next set of lines is not going to be executed. And once the promise is going to be resolved, from which the value is getting resolved, the value you are passing into this resolve function, that value will be the output of this statement, and that value will be stored in our this variable, right? So and so so one more thing is there, right? Whenever you are using await in the function that you are using await, it has to be async, otherwise it won't work. So two things: if you want to make use of await, you need to ensure that the function that is just next to await, that is in front of await, it has to resolve, it has to return a promise. And once you have set I am awaiting into this function, it will wait, it will halt the execution of the current function. And let me tell you, it will halt the execution of only current function. The main thread execution won't be halted, right? The main thread execution won't be stopped. It will halt the execution of only current function. And it will resume the execution of this function once the promise is resolved, right? So let's see if it works or not. I'll just say order process in better way. So I'll just resume it. Just refresh it. So let's refresh it. Fetching order. It is waiting for some time. Orders fetch. My orders are. So same thing. You see this process order. Same thing. We are able to write with the help of async await. Now you tell me, I mean, which is the better way looks to you, right? It's like line by line. If I'm able to read everything, right? It's fetching order. It's awaiting for get user order, and then when the orders are getting fetched, we'll execute the next set of statement, right? So couple of things I would kind of reiterate, and we need to focus on that, right? What whenever we are using await, the next function that we are calling after await, it has to return a promise eventually, right? It has to return a promise. The function in which I am using await, it has to async function, right? Otherwise it won't work. The third thing, as soon as JavaScript meet with this await statement, right, it will halt the execution of current function in which you have written this async. In our case, it's process order in better way, right? It will halt the execution of this function until and unless this get user order function is getting resolved. Once it is resolved, it will get the value, get the resolved value as a return value of this await function, right? And it will get stored into some variable, just like into this case, right? And then it will resume the execution once our promise is resolved. So this is the basic nature of async await, right? Now think about uh, I am using this a test function. Let's say I am using function test something like, and it's returning some string. Then now what I'm doing await test. Now what should happen? Let's see. Now let's see what happens. It's printing here. How come? As I said, right, function after await, it has to return a promise. So if by any chance, if your function that is just next to await is not returning promise, JavaScript is smart enough to convert into a promise and then resolve the same thing that you are returning. It might be string or something like that, right? You got it, right? If you are not returning promise, JavaScript will eventually make it look like behind the scene, it will resolve a promise with the same value, and it will store into this variable, right? Perfect. Now let's verify one more thing that I said. It will halt the execution of only current function, right? And also you need to make sure the thing that you are writing after await, we'll assume like you have some dependency of this call of, because this code is not going to be executed until unless this is getting resolved. So you have to be very sure the code you are writing after this is have some kind of dependency. If it is kind of independent code, you don't need to write it over here, right? Otherwise it won't get executed if it is not resolved. So think about a case in which I am having dependency, right? I'm fetching the orders, and after that I want to apply the order once I get the order ID, right? And once when I have apply the coupon, some kind of thing, apply the coupon, then I want to process the payment as well, some kind of thing, right? So it's kind of dependency here. Until unless my orders are not getting fetched, I cannot apply the coupon. Until unless my coupon is not applied, I cannot make the payment, right? So with such cases, you need to you can keep writing the things after await, right? But if something like there is no dependency on the above code, that is get user order, you should not keep it after this because it will be halted, right? So let's say I'm trying to run some independent function. Let's say show user details, something like that. We have this function and I will call this show user detail. Console.log user details are this, something like this. I'm just trying some function that is not dependent on this async function, right? Now let's see what happens. So I will just refresh the page. So you see this, it's executing this fetching order and it is waiting for this get user orders. And after this, none of the code is getting executed. It is getting blocked. What code is executing? Rest of the code. What is this rest of the code? This one, show user details, right? And once we got the orders, then the rest of the code is getting executed. Getting me, right? So it doesn't halt the rest of the program. It will keep running. Otherwise there is no point, right? If that's where they have introduced, you have to use async word here. That's where they will recognize they have to halt this function execution. Otherwise it will keep waiting. You cannot execute anything, right? So that's where await is needed only when inside the function which is having async keyword, right? Now you remember in the last video I have talked about the chaining of promises, right? The chaining of promises like something like you have created the order, you have all the items of your order, and then once your order is once your item has been fetched, you are trying to place some coupon over there, and once the coupon has been applied, you're trying to make the payment over there. That kind of promise chain we had talked about, right? So similar thing we are trying to implement it here, and let's see how does it look with the help of promises, right? So I will just remove this and I will just pass one string saying that orders fetched, right? And let's see, I have similar kind of function that apply coupon, and I will see coupon applied. I have similar kind of function process payment, something like this. Process payment, right? And then I'll see payment process. Just give me a minute. I will have one sip of water. Okay, right? So let's change some of the timing. Let's say coupon takes 2 seconds and this payment takes 4 seconds. Okay. Now what I want, until unless my orders are not getting fetched, I cannot apply coupon, right? On which I will apply the coupon, on which item I will apply the coupon. Until unless my coupon is not applied, right? Until unless I have finalized the total price on my order, right? I cannot make the payments, right? So there is certainly a dependency of one async operation over another, right? So how we were making use of handling this asynchronous operation one by one with the help of promises like this. I used to write get user order, then inside the callback data, maybe I can create function process my order, something like this. And then I can just say console.log data. And what I can do once my promise is solved, I will start the new promise, that is apply coupon. And I can chain this data console.log data. And then once my coupons are applied, I'll just say process payment. Okay. And then when everything is applied, I can say maybe console.log thanks for your order, right? Now let's see what happens to process my order. Orders fetched, coupon applied. Some error is there. What is that? I think that is wrong. Okay, let's try one more time. Orders fetched, coupon applied. Thanks for your order, right? So this is what we have already discussed, how to do a promise chaining, right? Now let's try to do the same thing with the help of async await in better way, right? So what I can do, I can just say let order status, it will be get user order, and then I can just say console.log order status. What I can do, I can just await for this promise to resolve, and for this function has to be async. Now my execution of this function will be halted until unless get user order function is not getting resolved, and this is what we want. Let coupon status await apply coupon, right? Console.log coupon status. And then I have like payment status await process payment, and then I have .console.log payment status, right? Perfect, right? Now in the end I can say what I can say, thanks for placing the order. Let's see how does it work. I think it's the wrong function name. I need to say process my order in better way. Okay, let's see how does it work. What is fetched? Coupon applied. Payment process. Thanks for placing the order, right? So you should see this way, right? This is looking really better, right? Quite readable, right? I am awaiting for user order, and then once my orders are done, I'm waiting for applying the coupon over it, and once the coupon has been applied, I'm waiting for payment to be processed. So far so good, right? Now we have certainly understood like async await is kind of better way to write promises. Behind the scene it's all promises, right? It's, you can say it's just a syntactic sugar over it, right? If you see the async await code, it's definitely looking better, right? Okay, now we have understood what is async await. How do we write async await? How do we replace async await? Instead of that, how do we write async await? Sorry, how do we replace promises with the help of async await, right? Now it's time to talk about how do we uh, how do we perform error handling, right? So if you remember, right, how do we perform the error handling in the promises, right? Suppose I have this promise and I'm rejecting this promise or something like orders fail to load. So what I used to do, get user order. Let me write a function again. Process order, get user order, then console.log data, right? Now there were two kind of ways. Either you can catch the error in error block, right? I already explained. And then there's another way, you can catch the error in catch function as well, right? Dot catch function. And how can we do it? Like this. Sorry, what is happening? So dot log, I'll say feeling something, and I can log this error object, right? Let's see it. Hmm, I need to call this process auto function, right? Okay, failing orders fail to load. So that's how we used to capture errors with the help of this catch function or this error callback function, right? But with the help of await, it is kind of quite easy. You can use a regular try catch block. Let's say order status is equal to await. I'll say get user order, and I will say try, and I'll put this thing inside the try block. And if something, sorry, I can do the catch block. Console.log, some error, and then I can do pass the error object. Let's see what happens. Await is only valid into async function that we already know. Some error order fails to load. Okay, perfect, right? So this was about handling uh, handling errors with async await, right? Okay, so we have talked about we had kind of done of promise recap. We also know now how to replace promise code with async await. We also know I mean where we should make use of async await. It's not like everywhere we are using await, right? Because the code just coming next to it, it will be blocked, right? And we also just observe like how to handle the uh, how to do the error handling with this, right? Now let's jump to probably one of the question that I had came across with one of the interview, right? So I will just discuss this this question, and then probably we should be good to wrap. Okay, so okay, so let's say I have this promises, this three promises function, right? Each function is uh, resolving a new promise, and I can have like a number of promises like this. And what I want to do, one by one, I want to act upon these promises, right? So suppose if one of my promises getting resolved, after that I need to start another one. And once my second promise is resolved, let's say after 6 seconds, after that I need to resolve the third one, right? So we understood the problem, right? We have n number of promises, and we want to start promise one by one. Like when when my first promise is getting resolved, after that I will start the second one. Once my second promise is getting resolved, after that I start the third one. So one very common approach that comes into my mind, right, at that moment of time, what I did, I just thought of creating a array of promises, and I just get the promise like this, an array of promises, right? And what I did, I just did the array of promises dot, let's say, map um data, mm, I mean, you can use for each as well. I'm using map because I want to act upon if some of the, I mean, I won't return anything from it, but I want to act upon each of the promise that we have, right? So I can use map is here, right? So let's say I'll call it promise object, right? Or better, it's a promise function, right? It's a promise function. Now what I did, uh, or maybe I will keep it as a normal function to bet to explain it better, right? Now, what I did, if I remember correctly, what I did, I just said let result, and I just did await on promise function. I just did await on this promise function. Oh, what happened to this? Huh, right? So I kept the function references in this array, right? Which become my array of promises of all the functions references. Now, one by one, I am trying to execute the function and I am awaiting on it. And since I need to await, I need to use async on the function which is using await. So I thought I will be able to do with this code, right? Because looks like it is executing and awaiting one by one, like it looks like this. So let's see what is the output. Okay, what is happening? Promise 2 resolved, promise 3 resolved, promise 1 resolved. What is happening? Promise 2 resolved, promise 3 resolved, and then promise 1 resolved. 6 seconds, and then 3 seconds, then promise 3 resolved, and then promise 1 resolved. Look like with this approach, every promises has been started from the beginning, right? It simultaneously it started the all the promise. It looked like it didn't make use of how it looked like, because that's where it is one after 6, and then one after 7, and then one after 8, right? You see that first it printed promise 2, which was resolved like at 6th second, and then it printed promise 3, which was printed like after 7 second, like after 1 second of 6, and then which it printed promise 1, which is like after 8 second, and 1 second after this promise 3. So looked like it had executed all the promises in one shot, right? And then when any of the promises is resolved, it is getting the result. But that is not we need, right? What we need, what do we need? I mean, until this first promise not getting resolved, you should not start the second one. And first try to look why does it happen. So I had explained you, right? It halt the function, it halt the only current function, right? If you see, so what map will do? It will keep executing this function. It will keep executing this function for all the array item, right? So what happens for the first item, right? For the first item, it executed this function. It executed this function. Okay, then it got, okay, it is awaiting on this promise, but it will halt only this function, but it won't halt the rest of the functionality. What is the rest of the functionality? Keep iterating for all the other items, keep iterating for second item, keep iterating for third item. What are the functionality of second and third item? Executing the promises, right? Executing the promises. So at first it executed all the promises, it doesn't wait for it, because it should not, because as I said, it will wait only the current execution function. It won't it won't fit for rest of the functionality. What were the rest of the functionality? Keep executing the other of the stuff, right? JavaScript will keep running, right? So what it did, it actually executed all of the promises at once, and then after the timeout expires, it will keep giving you the result. So the solution was like using the normal for loop. Let's say where I is equal to 0, I less than array of promises dot length I plus plus, and I will keep this in a function to make it async function Let's say handle promises, something like this, right? And I will say handle promises. Now what I will do, I'll say let promise await. I'll say array of promises. This will give me function reference. I will execute it, and this has to be async. And I'll just say console.log promises. Let's see what happens. You see that, right? Still waiting. Okay. Okay, so this is all I had regarding async await in JavaScript, right? So I tried to cover like all of the basics of async await here, right? So if still you have any doubt, you can drop in the comments. I will try to reply over there, right? Also, one more thing, I have not explained like till now. I have not explained how this async operation works behind the scene, right? How what exactly happens, right? I'm talking in terms of what are call stack, what are callback queue, what are micro task queues, right? And how event loop works. So that is something I'm planning to have a separate video on it, and that's where you'll get complete picture of it, right? I mean, till now I have explained in some kind of abstract manner how how this promises in Kevit are working, but definitely that video would help a lot, right? So so this I think with this I can wrap up the video. So thanks guys. Thank you for watching this. Please subscribe the channel if you like the content.